Hey, what is going on, everybody? Enter ChazmaN here. We're back once again with another week of the EnteRchatzmanpodcast. As always, on screen there should be some audio locations for you guys if you'd like to, check us out there. And then also on screen there should be some social media places where if you'd like to leave comments like one user left the other day. Yeah, feel free to leave them there, right? I think Gamer really enjoyed that one, whoever that was. But yeah, so we got, I don't know, we don't have a heck of a whole lot, but what we do have, I feel like this week is more than enough to make for an episode. So, I don't know, how are you guys? You guys are coming out of the...
Oh, I'm finishing up this shrine.
I'm
tired.
He's just been down in
That's not cool. That's not cool.
You've been down in the basement playing Switch this whole time?
Man, Zelda's taken over my life. I probably put in 85 hours or some nonsense up to this point, so...
I think I saw 70 plus hours on your.
Oh, it's past that. Last I checked, I know at least said 80 something.
Over.
I'm not even near that. I'm like past 30 at least.
Over the 3-day weekend, at Memorial Day weekend, I played about 20 hours. So
dang, man.
It was a lot for me.
You had to do some catching up. You were putzing around there for a while, so.
Yeah, I had to try to catch up to you guys.
No, now I have to catch up.
Just no life it for like a week.
Oh gosh, it's kind of hard to do, buddy.
You don't need a job. Jobs
I think it's probably the small human being that makes it a little more tricky for him.
Yeah.
Jobs are for losers. Cool kids don't have jobs. But yeah, if you wanted to know what we do have for you today, me and Phoenix, we're gonna talk hopefully shortly for about Guardians of the Galaxy. We got to go watch that, and I'm very excited to get into that. Then, of course, we have a highlights from the Hoard for you. We're going to be talking about the PlayStation Showcase, which me and MetalGamer got to... we did a nice little live stream kind of reaction video for that. And then, of course, more Zelda talk. What else would we finish up things with? But, I don't know.
Zelda.
Yeah, of course. So, I don't know, Phoenix, do you want to go right into Guardians of the Galaxy? I know we got to go watch that. Just, with the family. With the family and, what was it, a liter of Bud Light?
Yeah, it was something. I enjoyed it. I don't know. I mean, want to talk about? You give your thoughts first before I bias your opinion with anything I want to say.
I think I really enjoyed it. It's really weird because I would still say if I were to rank the three movies, I think it might be my least favorite. But I feel like it was a really nice kind of send-off. I really enjoyed how it kind of... You can definitely see that James Gunn kind of abruptly, it seems like he tried to wrap things up about as quickly and neatly as he could. But I still feel like even though it was, I guess, rushed... I don't want to say rushed, but...
What makes you feel like it was rushed?
I don't know. It just... The whole like kind of celebration, like Return of the Jedi kind of scene at the end, I feel like was a little off, but I don't know. Did you like that scene? I don't know. I'm curious what you thought of that scene.
I was happy to see everything buttoned up. I mean, I don't feel like it was rushed, but I was, anticipating it having a good amount of finality to it, right? Because Gunn is kind of moving forward or moving on to the DC universe, so I think it's better that he spent some time and kind of had... I don't know if it necessarily had to be celebratory, but that nice little bookend to kind of wrap everything up. I liked that. It didn't feel rushed to me. If anything, I felt like it was, I don't want to say unfocused, but I felt like it was hard. You know how like in the first movie, it was very much Star Wars movie?
Yeah.
Right? And to an extent, the second one was. So this was kind of weird because this movie's not about Star-Lord like at all. So for one, there's a big major shift.
Once again, spoilers for, the third volume of Guardians of the Galaxy movie, if you haven't seen it.
And honestly, I don't think this is a hard movie, I think, to really
spoil. Yeah, there's really nothing
there's
crazy.
A lot of, spoiler moments. But even without going into that, I mean, I think most people know this movie is focused on Rocket. What makes it weird for me is, like, Rocket for, 90% of the movie is knocked out, right? He's in, a comatose state. So he's the focal point of the whole movie, but everything's being told completely through flashback with him. So... I don't know. I thought that, in retrospect, was kind of a interesting like kind of direction to go. I don't want to say jarring necessarily, but thinking back, it's weird because almost like you didn't have like a focal character. I mean, it's the team, of course, trying to rally to save Rocket essentially, but I don't know, for a movie to focus so heavy on Rocket and him not really be there to give his perspective, like even at the end, like when surprise he doesn't die, they save him from everything. He doesn't really take a whole lot of time to really have a lot of retrospective on what happened. It all kind of happens quick because you as the audience, I guess, just knows what happened. So
I
I
mean,
don't know. I think the flow of things was a little odd for me.
I honestly kind of liked a lot of the more flashback oriented things. I just felt like it. I mean, I felt like it was necessary in order to give you some, I don't know, more of an emotional detachment from spoilers. His friends who don't make it,
And it's not that I didn't like the flashbacks. I thought the flashbacks were good. I think it was just hard because you had a main focus or main character of the movie, but you didn't, if that made sense. Like you had a main character who wasn't contributing to the narrative on his own, if that makes sense. It was all done through flashbacks. So it's like when you were following the other characters, I didn't feel like you had a focal side story to follow, if that makes sense. Like I didn't really care what was going on with Quill and Gamora. Nebula didn't really have a whole lot going on. Like there was a bunch of little mini plots, I guess, which maybe just made things like convoluted with, at least on the side character front.
Even the villains, like his viewpoint of his reasoning for what he's doing, even that's kind of like it's I guess just kind of speaking as to what you're saying is just like it felt a little unfocused, where he just kind of came off as like Saturday morning cartoon villain.
Well, if anything, that makes him super focused. He had one main objective, which was make everything perfect, for better or for worse. In this case, worse. I kind of liked that. Well, I don't want to say liked. I mean, he was definitely no Thanos. He wasn't this super complex villain, but I'm kind of glad he was. I think because everything else felt a little muddy with all the other side stories. I think it would have been worse if he would have had some real big complex narrative.
Well, he was another one that benefited heavily from a lot of those flashbacks because, again, one of the cooler scenes I thought was the whole aspects of like whenever High Evolutionary would like experiment on the creatures. Those were always like some of the best scenes. I mean, getting to see like a humanized, basically Ninja Turtle was like kind of cool because how he's doing it is he's like what is he doing? He's like advancing time rapidly within like a short amount of area, or I think that's what he's doing with the tubes, right? He's like advancing evolution like rapidly,
forcing evolutionary advancements quicker. So I don't know. I mean, I liked the movie. I felt like it was just a little odd. I think it kind of really relies on you as the audience knowing or understanding everything that's happened with Rocket to kind of make the ending work. When I think about the other characters in that moment, they had some understanding of what Rocket went through, but they didn't have the same background that we did as the audience, which I don't know. I think makes some of the last moments not hit quite as well for me. I don't know. As I think I'm trying to be overly critical here. I'm trying to nitpick. Overall, I enjoyed the movie. There was nothing that I think really pulled away from my enjoyment. I thought this is by far the most emotional of the Guardians. Like, it hit my heartstrings several times, and not even always just Rocket stuff. Like, Drax had some very emotional moments. Quill at the end had a couple of moments that were pretty hard hitting.
I was gonna say what I think what I really appreciated is, as you were talking about how it definitely felt as though, like with most superhero movies, you have a big bad who's threatening the universe, threatening everything. We must stop them. I at least appreciated how it definitely felt like more of just like a story of the team. Like it was just like, it wasn't a huge like galactic issue. It was more of like a personal thing of them just trying to save their friend. And I kind of like that. I mean, obviously that definitely helps that focusing in on the team aspect or the raccoon aspect. Again, the whole point of the movie is to, it's the finale. They're trying to tug on your heartstrings. James Gunn is trying to tug on your heartstrings as much as possible. So I liked how, and also like the Guardians has always kind of felt like a much smaller scale side plot anyway. So the whole, I don't know. You get what I'm saying. It fits. They're I don't know. It's not so grand. Like it's all just a story about Raccoon and saving the team,
Yeah. No, I mean, I like how it's a little more introspective, if you will. It is focused very much on just the team and their, family kind of dynamic and kind of how that plays out. So I think you're right. It didn't need to have some crazy big stakes. I mean, it did in a sense for one planet. Like it wasn't like universe shattering, but there were still planets at stake. So for better or for worse. I don't know. I liked the movie. I'm not going to sit here and be overly critical about it. I mean, especially looking back at the last few Marvel movies that have come out, where
this
I
is
have
much better.
very much not enjoyed my time with them. Like, Ant-Man was just bland. Thor was straight up bad. What was before that? There was something else. Doctor Strange made me just mad. So this was the first one, I think, in a long time, probably since Spider-Man, that I straight up enjoyed. Like, any criticism I'm throwing at it, honestly, is nitpicking. Like, I enjoyed the background with Rocket. The emotional aspect of things really just hit hard. So I think that's maybe why I was kind of happy with the celebratory ending, if you will. Like, it was a nice payoff. I think maybe it ended a little overly happy for some characters. I mean, I guess the one spoiler, here's your spoiler alert for those who cares. Nobody dies. Like, I think I was expecting at least one of those team members to bite the bullet. Like, because in the first movie, arguably, the original group kind of died, so you had a death, and then the second one you had Yondu, and this one, nobody died, right? Except for Rocket's past friends, but
at least the thing I appreciated is, like, even though nobody died, the movie doesn't end like in a fashion like. To me, it's not wholeheartedly like satisfying. It's a bittersweet ending, where like everyone.
It's not they all survive and they just keep on going in the same fashion.
It's
right?
not just
they
like
all split off. It's no longer the same core Guardians.
It's not just every superhero movie just ends with some superhero learning something where it's like, I learned about trusting my teammates, or I learned about believing in, you know what I mean. This movie just kind of ends with everyone kind of, I don't know, like you said, self-realization, going off on their own journey, and
accepting that they all need to take next steps in their lives and not, be stuck in the past or the current, kind of moving forward with whatever path life was taking them. So yeah, I mean, it was bittersweet in that regard, but I thought it was cool to kind of see that last scene where they kind of had the new Guardians and the new kind of composition of Guardians. Like, I don't know, it was nice to see them move forward.
I should mention, I feel like this movie had one of like the cooler fight scenes I've seen in a Marvel movie in a while. The hallway scene. That was one of the cooler scenes that they've like. That was probably the coolest one since maybe like Endgame, I would say. I mean, there hasn't been a heck of a like. What was the what was Madness? Multiverse. The whole stuff with Professor X was kind of cool, but I feel like some of that didn't quite live up to what you were looking for.
Yeah, no, that scene, I think I leaned over in the theater, I'm like, that was a good scene. Like, the flow of it, the pacing of it, it reminds me back, I don't know if you ever watched it, the Daredevil TV show, the Netflix one.
Oh, that, I did, yeah.
It's like the first season, I remember what everybody talked about, and this isn't the same kind of scene, but to me it had the same kind of, like, reaction. There's that one scene
where
earlier,
he fights a bunch of people in a hallway.
Yeah, and it's like, their big deal is there was a one-cut, or, pseudo one-cut scene, or no-cut scene, I guess what it was, where they just filmed the whole thing from start to finish, and it's really long fight montage, and now that was really impressive, right? This had that same feel. It wasn't one of those one-cut deals, but the way it seamlessly moves from one team member punching some other guy, which picks up and carries on to this other attack with the other guy.
Groot, like, literally shoots his branches into an enemy and then expands his branches outwards into spikes, and he, like, expands within somebody and, like, freaking spikes them. That was really cool. Star-Lord, like, he, like, runs by, like, 3 dudes and plants something on their back, and then when they come to attack them, they all electrocute and stuff. There was, like, a lot of really cool
every really character got their moment to do something pretty neat, so...
I would say the only wasted character would probably be Adam Warlock in the entire movie. He was, like, the only... I mean, I guess Gunn has to treat all of his characters kind of jokey, but... I mean, and we were talking about it in the movie. Warlock's really not that important or serious of a character anyway, so... I mean, I guess it makes sense.
I don't know. I mean, I understand. He was wasted.
He's super powerful, but I don't think they ever do much with him in the comics, at least. I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, so to be fair, I'm not the biggest Guardians buff. I have not read a huge amount of the comics. I have played the games, read a few comics, and of course the movies. So my knowledge of Adam Warlock is pretty sparse. But I mean, I think they had him honestly after hearing all the reviews saying how much they wasted him in the movie. He was in it a little more than I thought. Like he would pop up more often and serve a pseudo important role. I mean, he wasn't the Adam Warlock as he was portrayed as some major all powerful being from like the game and stuff like that, but I think he was fine. I mean, I think if they would have tried to make him a larger character, a larger presence, it probably would have weighed down the movie in a weird way. There's already a lot going on. I guess arguably you could have just removed him completely. I think part of the reason they brought him in, I think it was the end of the second Guardians where he was a teaser, right? Was that it? It was some movie, one of them, where they show like a tube at the what do they call the gold people?
Sovereign.
Sovereign,
I think.
Yes, there was a extended credit scene in some movie. I want to say it was the second one where they show a tube and it's clearly like Adam Warlock's, birthing chamber, whatever it is. So they had set him up. I have a feeling if Gunn didn't use him here, that just would have been a wasted thread or dead end. So I don't know. I thought it was fine. They could have done more with him, I guess, or they could have scrapped him completely, but I don't think he necessarily hurt the movie. He served a few moments that either add a little bit of levity, or at the end, he kind of came through and, saved the day for at least one particular character. So,
yeah, there was so much stuff in here that I wanted to point out. I mean, another stuff I thought was really great and funny was the really weird, like, scenes with all of the animals when they're in captivity. This movie feels like an acid trip at times with some of those scenes.
It's like Sid Toy Story, like creepiness. Like, you remember when a kid and you get so after that Sid Toy Story scene where you see like the baby doll head and the spider stuff coming out, like that's the kind of feels you get in this movie when they show like the animals and the experimentation they went through.
The
like,
walrus in a wheelchair.
It's just so like messed up, demented imagery. But I think the real kind of selling point here, the big trick is like how much Gunn makes you care about these super creepy entities after a while. Like you literally feel pretty heartbroken when they meet their end. I mean, that's, trust me, if you watch the movie, you know it's coming. So
did you,
I'm hesitant to even say it's a spoiler.
Did you know Pete Davidson was in the movie? You know who he played?
Mm-mm.
The little mutated little ball at the end that gets released. There's like a mutated little tiny ugly looking creature that's as the ship's blowing up, Rocket and them are like releasing all the creatures, and as they open one, I think somebody goes ugh, and there's like this little tiny creature that's like,
I think I vaguely remember that. Yeah.
He plays that creature. Then did you know the chick that Nebula or that Gamora shoots in the leg, that's James Gunn's wife?
Oh, really?
Yeah, on the weird like Nathan Fillion
I was gonna
thing.
Yeah, Nathan Fillion was a fun cameo. They had some fun cameos in this one. Like the movie's fun, if nothing else. Even if you want to criticize some of the narrative choices, like if you're a Guardians fan at all, I think you'd be hard pressed not to have a relatively good time. Especially if you go with friends, make it a thing. So
I will still say
give it a solid B+.
I will still say this is my favorite Marvel series out of everything they've made. Like these are probably my favorite movies to like consistently go back and watch, maybe other than some of the older like Iron Man and some of the Captain Americas. Like
and I didn't love 2 as much as you did. Like 1 I think is fantastic. This one was good, although I am curious how well it's going to hold up or how well it kind of stands on its own. 2 didn't do it for me. I don't know, maybe I don't know, I've only seen it once or twice, so
like,
maybe
don't get me wrong,
things.
I will still say like these movies still feel to an extent very cookie cuttery in terms of they all have that Marvel formula. I just think it, like you said before, it's the way James Gunn is able to write, and he really builds a camaraderie between these characters where like you really care about like where they're going, you actually care about the journey. I don't know, this really leads me to be excited for what he's going to do with DC. Hopefully he can turn the corner for them in some way, but I definitely think
do you think he can?
I don't think so, but we'll see. I mean, if anyone can, I mean, he's got a certain touch with these type of movies.
I think I'm not saying he doesn't have this range, but I haven't seen a lot of his extended, cinematic kind of, or repertoire, whatever you want to say. Like Guardians, I'm pretty well familiar with, and then Suicide Squad. But those are all pretty similar movies in tone and style. And not saying that he can't do anything more than that. I'm sure he can, but you know, I'm trying to picture now Batman, Superman, all these other characters with that James Gunn Guardians flair to them, and I don't know if that works for every character. So I think it's the big test is going to be see what his range is going to be. I said I'm not doubting it. He is a very talented director, and everything I've seen him in, but everything I've seen him in so far has been relatively one note. So I want to see what he can do with these other characters. I think that's going to be the big test. Like if the next Superman movie comes out and it feels like some weird Suicide Squad-y, tone, I don't think that's going to bode well. Not that I'm saying it will be, but that's my curiosity there.
I know at the end of the movie it said Star-Lord will be back in the post-credits.
Yeah.
Would you want to see Star-Lord back at any capacity? I mean, I feel like I'm pretty happy with where they left things off here. I know Bautista has said he's not doing anymore, so...
You said what?
I'm pretty sure Bautista has said he's not doing Drax anymore, so...
I'm really kind of neutral on it. I like Star-Lord. I like Chris Pratt more than most people. I know a lot of people got a real kind of hate thing going on for Chris Pratt just in general.
I like him as Star-Lord. There's not a heck of a whole lot of...
I like him in most things.
I've heard he's really good in that TV show that made him big. I've heard that's where he's like...
Parks and Rec. A lot of his voice acting stuff I think has been pretty good. The Lego movie I enjoyed. Granted, he's just being Chris Pratt. I thought he was fine as Mario. Like, there's nothing he's done that I've straight up disliked.
I didn't like him in the Jurassic Worlds.
I thought he was fine. Like, trust me, the stuff wrong with the Jurassic movies had nothing to do with Chris Pratt. Like, I think he served and did his role fine. He was Chris Pratt, and he wasn't, it wasn't a very expansive range of a, acting performance there, but he was fine. I don't know. I guess my point being is I wouldn't mind seeing him again. I also don't feel like there is a need for him. At the same time, though, I have no idea where Marvel is going with anything right now. Like, I know their plan has been the whole Kang the Conqueror.
They got to figure out what's going on with Majors first.
Yeah, so we don't know what's going on there, if they're going to recast him. And even if they did, like, everything building up to that's been so wishy-washy. Maybe not wishy-washy, but the quality bar for building up to that big, cinematic whatever they're doing, it's not going to be a Thanos level anything. So I don't know. Marvel just in general has kind of lost its, groove or lost its stepping here. So I don't know exactly where Star-Lord's going to fit back into that, how he's going to help it. I don't know. I guess my point being is I don't care one way or the other with how they handle Chris Pratt at this point. We'll see. I mean, I think if they ended it here, it would be fine. I think it was a satisfying enough ending for where they brought him to that it could end right there and I'd be happy with it.
Yep. Totally agree. Shoot.
Metal's looking bored. We should probably get him in on the conversation. So, do you have anything else you want to mention about Guardians or?
No, I wanted to say later on. I don't know if you would be down, but I would totally be down to do maybe a retrospective on the three movies as a whole. I mean, I don't know. That'd be totally up to you. We just watch all three movies and talk about them.
Something we talk about. We'll see.
The series. I don't know. All right, gamer. We'll let you go now.
Sure.
Yeah, guys. So we're gonna move on to our next highlights from the Hoard section. Main reason why I wanted to do that, I wanted to cover Diablo in some sort of way, because if you guys don't know, in less than 24 hours, a new Diablo game will be playable, basically. So I don't know. Did you guys get items?
I grabbed one last minute. Not my fanciest item, but I liked it. So
what about you, gamer?
Yeah, I got something. It's not nothing great, but
Look, I can see it there hiding in the back.
Oh,
I know.
I see it. Well, we'll let gamer go first since we already see his item.
Yips.
It's all right.
I guess. Well, I do have an art book.
Ooh.
So it's the art of Diablo 3, and it comes with all kinds of cool little goodies in it. So all the different lore and the different monsters and the concept art. It's so freaking cool.
That's from 3, right?
Yeah. Okay, look at the monster. Look at. Oh,
I'm great. And I'm old as crap.
Old as balls. and look at as molded.
Yeah.
So
That's
pretty
really
neat.
good to keep. A lot of those Blizzard like hard books,
Hell yeah.
with artworks and stuff. A lot of those hold their value.
Yeah, this thing's freaking boss, man. I love this thing.
I don't
Yeah,
know
I
if
got the strategy guide that is like I think bound the same way as like the pair to that one.
It's like
Yeah,
a hard
hardcover.
cover. Beautiful.
I don't know if I told you. I went into Goodwill one time and found like 5 hardcovers for World of Warcraft, all art books, and I think I paid like $1 or $2 each for them. And I turned around and I think I sold them to some younger couple for like $60 or something. And they were like stoked. They were like, "These are so expensive now." I'm like, "Oh, okay." They probably got a real good value off me.
Nice.
What about you, Phoenix? Do you want to go or do you want me to go?
I can go. Nothing huge here. I was gonna grab the collector's guide, but then I remembered I had this.
What's
Oh,
that?
nice.
So, Diablo for the PS1, which is relatively
buddy.
rare. A lot of people, played Diablo back on PC when it first came out. I didn't realize till probably a few years ago they actually put out a console port, so it's disc only, unfortunately. The way I got it though, I really like. So I've been looking for it forever, and then I was trying to find someone to trade some games away for. I traded a copy of NCAA 14 because that was like super hot at the time for that. I paid like $1 for it. And some guy's like, "Oh my gosh, I'll give you a Diablo and all this other crap for it." So I was like, cool. So got rid of a crappy football game. Well, I guess not a crappy football game, but got rid of a football game I paid $1 for and got Diablo for the PS1. So
Cool. Looks nice.
Nice.
I just gotta find a case for it.
Sheesh, we're blasting right through here. Let's see. My item. I don't think I got anything super crazy, but it's something I need to display it. But here we go. So I went into the garage and I found my
Diablo
battle
2.
chest.
That'd be battle.
Yeah, I remember that.
I had a feeling you were gonna grab that one, so I left it.
Yeah, it's got Diablo. It's got like a bunch of stuff. It came with like
Got the expansion.
2 or 3 expansions for Diablo 2. It came with the base copy, of course, of Diablo. And it also had the ultimate
I think it's only got one expansion. It's got Diablo, Diablo 2, and then there's one expansion with it.
Mm-hmm. And then it's got the Diablo 2 ultimate, what is this? The strategy guide. But this thing's awesome. This is like one of my favorite like PC box things I have.
Yeah. Did you guys play the Diablo 2 remake thing they put out a couple of years ago?
I did. It was fine. I feel like I played it at a bad time. I think I have it.
Yeah, like
You're good?
I had downloaded it like for me and my wife to play. I think we played it for like 10 minutes and never got back to it. I don't think it was necessarily bad or anything. Just I think you were like kind of bad timing to get.
It was
into
bad timing for me.
Downloaded it.
I think that came out around the time the Link's Awakening remake came out, and I think I was focused on that instead. I feel like that's about the same time. Oh, anyways, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I know you guys. I guess since we're on the topic, you guys are gonna get to play tomorrow night Diablo.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, well, my wife's here in my house. Diablo is my wife's thing. Like I like Diablo. Yeah, I've played my fair share of it, but this is like her lifeblood, man. When a game comes around, she'll give it like Diablo 3 would spend hundreds of hours. She would go on like eBay and get like the crazy she'd buy the what do you call them? I don't know, like the broken. I may have some. I don't know. I'm already selling her out.
I'm actually surprised you didn't show off her Diablo 3 Switch. I figured that's what you were going to choose.
Oh yeah.
She's got like the collector's Switch or something.
Yeah, so she's like super into it. So usually my Diablo kind of time frame goes like this. She gets it. I play with her to get through the campaign. Then she'll play without me for like 3 hours, and then before I know it, she's played without me like 50 hours. And then she's so far beyond me that, yeah, it's not worth keeping up with. So that would be my day, or at least my week. I'll play with her while I can, and then she'll leave me in the dust, and then I'll go back to playing Zelda. So.
I'm gonna keep playing Zelda until I tap, until I'm just like I've gotten everything I need out of this game.
Okay.
I mean, I want to play Diablo, but I just think it's one I can wait on. I'm honestly I'm a little more excited for FF16 at the end of next month, and I'm more excited for that, I think. Wait.
Yeah, like I'm looking forward to Final Fantasy, but I tell you, like, if I play Diablo and that, I'm never gonna have any spare time this
No.
summer. Like, I've got to after Zelda dies out and I get a little bit of a Diablo fix. I'm
I just
backing
thought
off
about
games
it.
for a little
Diablo
while.
doesn't come out till the 6th, so why are people getting to
Super
play?
early release. If you
Oh.
get the was it like Ultimate Edition or Digital Deluxe or whatever it is, you get like 4 days early or something.
Hmm.
So yeah, it comes out tomorrow. I think for most people like 7 p.m. something.
So you guys won't. So you guys won't get to play it, right? It won't be until.
We'll get to play it.
Oh yeah, I got.
Oh, you have the
I
nice
got,
edition?
I got the ultimate.
Oh, okay.
Man, I got Joy and myself the Ultimate Edition.
So
I got no life.
I got the basic edition. I'm gonna play on the PS5. My wife's got the digital super awesome deluxe ultimate edition on Xbox. So I'm gonna do like couch co-op with her. And to my knowledge, like your account is fully cross-platform, cross everything. So I'll just
Ooh,
log into the PS5 when I pick up that basic copy.
ooh, I didn't know that. Oh, that's
Pretty
great.
positive. So like whether you're on PC, PS5,
Oh,
Xbox,
man.
cross-platform, everything. If I'm
My
wrong,
life
you'll be
is
very
over.
disappointed when I go to play it on the PS5. But
I may. I don't even know how long you guys are going to be playing the game, so you guys are probably going to drop it. I mean, Jacques or your wife will probably be the only one still playing after like a while. Which by the time I get to it, everyone's probably going to be done playing it.
no, it just depends. I'll tell you, I'm not gonna get to play much. At least this first week, I'll get to play this weekend a little bit. But I'm heading out of town next week, so all next week I'm not gonna get to touch it, and I don't know what it's gonna be like when we return.
You take
so.
your Switch, play some Zelda.
Probably. Yeah,
No.
that's my plan. I got a long plane flight ahead of me, so yeah, probably do some shrines.
No.
Yeah.
All right, so we are going to let's get rid of that. Need to get the timer. So we're going to move on now to our speedrun topic. So we wanted to cover the PlayStation Showcase in some fashion. We did. Me and Metal Gamer did do the reaction video live when it happened, but of course that was more just our kind of first thoughts, kind of our reaction to it. So we wanted to have some time to kind of talk about it. So Phoenix came up with the idea of throwing it into our speedrun topic. So we're going to take 15 minutes and try and cover everything that we can from the event that that we liked. So, I guess I should pull up the notes. All right. So, how do you guys want to just tackle it one by one, or whatever you guys think you want to talk about first?
I wouldn't do one by one, because I think that's gonna take way too long. I say you start the timer, you talk about the things on the list you want to talk about, and we see where we end up at.
I know you just said that, but I will talk about the first announcement actually because I feel like it's notable. So let me go ahead and start the timer. And here we go. In the words of the Joker. All right. Okay, so very first off, I did want to talk about this first announcement. This was the game that me and Gamer were joking about. Kind of looked like Watch Dogs. This is what was it called? Fair Games. Now the main reason why I feel like this game is notable is because this is from the new development studio within Sony called Haven. Which, have you guys heard of this? You know who's leading it? Well, basically, this is the lady Jade Raymond. So this is the person. She's been in charge of like a lot of Ubisoft first-person single-player oriented games. So a lot of people were excited when she was brought on and given the studio because they were super excited to see what kind of single-player game she would develop. And first game they start developing. This is not a single-player. This is like a shooter, live service multiplayer game.
I think that's the big rub that a lot of people right now are having with Sony in general.
A lot of the announcements, yep.
Well, what are they? They put out some earnings report. I think they were saying, I could be wrong on this, it was like 60% of their development costs right now is being sunk into upwards of 12 different live service games. Only 40% now is going into single player games. So the majority of Sony's focus is live service, for better or for worse.
They didn't buy Bungie for no reason.
Well, so piggybacking on this, I know it kind of goes on a tangent. So you guys saw the announcement from Naughty Dog, right, where they're pushing back or delaying their multiplayer Last of Us game they've been touting forever.
Well, they said they're pulling developers from, or they're pulling
putting on the new projects.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So, to my understanding, the reason that is Bungie was called in to do like a test kind of preview of that game and basically said, yeah, this isn't a good game. So, Bungie basically crapped on Naughty Dog a little bit. And then Sony's like, I think Bungie is like one of their golden goose right now, or at least how they're looking at it. And they just went with it and like, okay.
Well, a lot of people are speculating. Did Bungie come in and crap on this game because of the quality of the game? Or did Bungie crap on the monetization aspect of this game and say, no, you're not going to, this isn't the best way to make a bunch of monies. So, I mean, you don't know for sure, but...
It's too hard to say.
Too speculative. Yeah.
Yeah. I just think it's interesting that, they wouldn't... Naughty Dog, which is, a studio that in the past has been like one of Sony's, big players, right? Arguably probably one of the best studios they have. They aren't going to trust in their, creative vision enough to let them kind of keep going, it sounds like. Whether they're delaying this or taking it back to the drawing board or canceling it, like, that's a pretty big deal that they're relying on Bungie's input there. But the fact that they're so focused on live service that they would go against, like, a single-player focused studio... I don't know. That says a lot right now where Sony's head is at. So I know that's a lot of these games on this list are kind of leaning that direction. I don't know. I mean, that's a scary thought because most people love Sony or have loved Sony because of their first-player, cinematic, single-player games. And now they're deviating from that. Is that going to turn people away from them? I mean, of course, it will depend on the quality of the games, but...
And that also leads into another big announcement was... the revival from Bungie of their original major game Marathon, which
this looks good.
From what I understand, though, Marathon wasn't like a multiplayer game. No. The original, apparently, it was a single player. So a lot of people are like, oh, look, another multiplayer. They called this genre. What was it? An extraction multiplayer game, which I don't even know what that means. I'm guessing that's like Rainbow Six Siege or something.
I mean, no gameplay was shown here, so it's really hard to get a feel for the game. But I mean, the art direction looks cool. But to be fair, Bungie has always had incredible art direction and trailers and whatnot. They've always done really well with. Will they deliver out of the gate with this one? I don't know. Like, I love Bungie as much as the next guy, and I spent my fair share of time playing Destiny. But whenever they've released a game, at least in the past 10 years with Destiny and Destiny 2. It's fallen pretty flat initially, right? Like Destiny 1, not so hot. Destiny 2, I think it did better critically, but I think people realized pretty quickly it was missing a lot of stuff, so it started falling flat pretty quick. So, I don't know, is Marathon going to suffer a similar fate there? Have they learned all their lessons from Destiny? I don't know.
Oh, something that just hit my mind. I hate to go back to the Last of Us thing, but if you noticed, they... Naughty Dog afterwards had teased that just the timing of it was funny. Naughty Dog teased that they're like working on a single player oriented Last of Us title, and it's like
they didn't say Last of Us. They just said single player title.
Oh, I thought they said Last of Us. I was gonna say, well, of course you are. It's like, what else would you be working on?
I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's just we're still working on some single player experience. So
I just thought it was like kind of cheeky to say that after Schreier and everyone, or I think they said that's also why they had announced that they were pulling resources from the Last of Us game or multiplayer game because Schreier was getting ready to drop like a big report as to why that game was getting he was going to announce or put a report talking about all that stuff that they had announced was happening. So they beat him to the punch basically.
Before we shift gears, I had one other just kind of speculative question. So, with Bungie moving over to Marathon, which I'm assuming is going to be a pretty large supported, game long term, what happens to Destiny? Because they're wrapping up their 10-year plan with it. Is there a Destiny 3? Is Destiny 2 kind of the end of the Destiny universe for a while? Like, what do you think?
There's going to be a Destiny 3. There will be.
Is their studio going to be able to handle that? They have a big studio. Like, it's grown substantially over the past few years. And they got a lot of, funding with, the Sony acquisition. But I don't know. I mean, it's taken them a lot just to keep Destiny 2 running it up to a point that I think people are happy with. Splitting that now with the whole nother game and supporting that, I don't know. I don't know how well that's going to play out. But I guess we'll see. I'm not a developer. What do I know?
Real quick, I did want to mention one of the big one of the bigger announcements that I know Gamer was super excited for was this Souls-like game, Phantom Blade Zero. I thought it looked pretty cool. Something I probably won't get to play. My experience with some of these Dark Souls games has been well documented, so I don't know if it's my type of... Actually, I just thought about it. Something interesting about this title I found out is a lot of people were curious who the development team is, and a lot of people have thought the movements and stuff look kind of hard to do on controller. And as it turns out, this development team, this is their first foray into developing a console video game. Apparently they're like widely known as a mobile developer, and so even like the developer after this thing was like, we're very excited for this to be our first venture into real video games. I'm sorry, mobile games. But yeah, interesting. This is like a mobile developer. Sorry, I don't have their name. I probably should have pulled that up. All right, so moving on to another one. You guys got anything? I know Sword of the Sea was another interesting one. That was the Journey-looking game. I know MetalGamer was excited for that one. Did you guys like Journey? I never played it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those very just chill kind of, experiences. But, if you're in the right mood, Journey's fun. I enjoyed Flower a lot too, which,
yeah,
same kind of thing.
I have that cool PS3 Journey edition. It's like a collector's or something where it has like Flower and like 2 or 3 other games or something on there.
Thing.
Mm-hmm.
So just for sake of time, because I know you're going to want to vent about it, I'm going to hop ahead. Alan Wake 2.
Alan Wake 2?
Yeah. And this is less about, I think, the game. I mean, I know you're an Alan Wake fan, so I mean, the game is probably fun.
I love the first one. I didn't like what was it, American Nightmare? That kind of sucked, but...
So, big news, no physical copy. At least not anything that's been, officially stated. It's all, right now we have no plans for physical release, all digital. So to my knowledge, I mean, we've had plenty of games that have been digital only. The first quote-unquote AAA game that is all digital from the get-go, no physical
Well, you
release.
know why they said they did this? You read?
Mm-hmm.
Because the game's going to be $10 cheaper. They were like, we want to make this more easily accessible to people, so it'll be 50 or it's 60 instead of 70 or something.
That's bullcrap.
Oh, crap.
Yeah, I mean, they can give that rationale as much as they want. Not that there isn't some cost savings there. That's not the reason they're doing it. I mean, there's ownership issues here. They don't want you to be able to resell the game back. And to be fair, I mean, nowadays a physical game is pretty much useless, right? Like, you think about most of these games, you can't even play them without day one patches. Zelda, you couldn't play without a day one patch. You had to patch the game. So even if you had the cart, like, I'm actually curious how it would have worked if you would have had a Switch that didn't have internet connection. Could you have even played Zelda? Because to my knowledge, you had to have the day one patch. But regardless, we're at that kind of world now where physical media really serves no functional purpose, because you got to download something off the internet anyway. So how big of a deal is this to you that they've already kind of gone this direction and you're going to see more of it with all digital?
If it was... This is one of those situations where, like, unfortunately, they had to do it with a title that I'm actually excited for. If this had been, like, some other franchise that I didn't care about, we'll have to see. Because this is one of those moments where I kind of hope I speak with my money, as we normally talk about, where I really shouldn't buy this. But, man, it's going to be tempting because I like the first game. And this comes out on October 17th, which I think is like right at Halloween time. It's like
You're gonna be a sucker.
It's really crappy. It's really crappy for them to do. As I think it's easy to plain to see the three of us like physical media. We like.
Well, I'm asking, what is your? I mean, so I get that, but why is this such a bad thing? Like, what's the main reason why you're now upset about it? You just miss having something physical in your hand, or were you gonna ever resell it? I mean,
I don't resell it
now to
a whole
have
lot. It's just it's purely nostalgia, and I don't know. I like looking at the covers. I'm a weirdo. That's why I have all these games. But...
Well, they've put out a bunch of collector's editions recently. They don't have the game with it. I bet they'll do that for this. You'll have an Alan Wake's physical collector's edition. No disc, no game, but it'll have like a steel book because you can put it on your shelf. You'll have a statue or something.
I'd be down.
Would that appease you?
That would appease me. And you can also count on this. Someone who probably likes this is probably something like Limited Run. I'm sure Limited Run's like, oh, fine, we'll try and work out a deal with Remedy at some point and, create something. There will be ways. That's you're right.
I guess my point being, I'm playing devil's advocate is what I'm doing here, because I'm still a fan of having physical media, but these past couple of generations, I have not amassed huge collections of Xbox X, PS5 games, or even like Xbox One and PS4. I mean, I have them, but they dwindled a lot too, just because the disc really was functionally useless in a lot of games. Like, you had to have patches. What was it? The Star Wars Jedi Survivor game only came with like 20% of the game on the disc. Like, you still had to download the majority of the game. So the disc, all it is a way for you to activate the game, and technically you can then sell it. So if you have plans on selling the game one day, sure, but let's be real. Do we think these new modern games are going to have like a lot of collector's value to them? I don't, because the reason you have like an old SNES game's valuable is because it's a complete game. One, there's nostalgia to it, but two, you could take that SNES game and plug it into your system and play it and get a certain experience out of it. 30 years from now, I'm not going to be able to take Jedi Survivor and plug it into an Xbox without internet and play it, right? I'm still going to have to download whatever. So at that point, the disc doesn't even have much value to it. So it's a very temporary thing. I think it's what we're getting to as far as the value of anything physical. So I don't know.
Yeah,
for better or for worse, digital's where we're at.
Real quick, I just wanted to mention I'm a huge fan of the original 3 Metal Gear Solid games. Metal Gear Solid 3 Delta, or Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater Delta got announced, where I think it's being presented as a remaster or a remake. People aren't quite sure of the original Snake Eater. I'm super hesitant to anything Konami related as of late, so especially with the last few years. So I feel like I need to see a lot more. There's no Kojima. It's like...
Well, you did hear, though, it's got, like, the entire voice cast coming back.
That's why I said they don't know if it's a remake or a remaster. It's like, are they bringing back all the...
Well, I think it's a remake in the sense that they're remaking it part from the ground up in a new engine. I think they did announce they're not changing anything about the narrative. Like, it's going to be a shot-for-shot, one-to-one kind of thing, is what they're, I think, kind of selling it as. Will it really be that? I don't know, but... I think the fact they're just scrubbing Kojima from the whole thing is just scummy. I mean, they own the product, but...
at the next Game Awards, they're going to... Keely's going to throw a shot at Konami for his buddy.
Keely already did. He already put a tweet out. I don't know if you saw it.
I didn't.
He tweeted Konami. He was like, yeah, but who made the game? That was his tweet.
Oh.
So, yeah.
I don't know. Real quick, another big thing I thought, Dragon's Dogma 2. Thought it looked incredible. I'm excited. Never played the original. Makes me want to play the original. That was one of the better announcements, I thought. And then I guess the only other big thing, just throwing it in, Spider-Man 2. There's not a heck of a whole lot to say. It just showed a lot of great gameplay. Looks like a great AAA, Spider-Man adventure.
And you haven't played any of the Spider-Mans yet, right?
No, apparently that commenter did not like that fact. Said the fat one hasn't played any of them. It's like, well, I bet they've played every single game in existence. So they know better, right? They've played everything.
So I know we're out of time, but there is one thing I would like to hit on.
The
ESU.
The
portable
Project Q, yeah.
Yeah. And I know the big joke is that it's pretty much a PlayStation version of the Wii U controller. Do you guys have any interest in it?
Nope.
I didn't have any interest of the PS VR. What the hell am I going to get that for?
So
that
can I?
I think a purpose though.
Not a $600 purpose.
I think depending on the price point, this could be a huge problem for Sony. Mainly because I don't necessarily know what function this is supposed to serve. Like, is this supposed to be for the person playing at their house who just wants a second screen? Are they going to be developing games like the Wii U had, where the games actually utilized a second screen in order to...
No, it's not that.
I know it's not. That's why.
Thing.
Yeah.
This is basically for a family.
It's
where
not an
like,
OLED screen. LCD too. It's like
And that could be, honestly, that could be good because the cost
the
would
price
be
point.
lower.
Yeah.
Like, this is for a family where they have one primary screen in their house. Like, there's one big living room, that's where the PS5's hooked up, the whole family shares it. And, you know, you've got your sister watching, I don't know, what do kids watch nowadays? They're watching Powerpuff Girls on the TV, I don't know.
Last of Us, HBO.
Point being is there's somebody else using the TV, and you really want to play the PS5. You pull out your PS Wii U controller, and you can now go play the PS5. I mean, that's cool. I don't think that's going to be a real big market, because here's my thought behind this. So this cost is going to be realistically $200. Right, I think that's being optimistic about it.
If this
Could
is
be a lot more.
if this is over 200, it's going to be such a
Like,
flop.
it really needs to be cheaper than that. But
Yes.
let's just say 200, which I think is probably about right. You're now competing pretty closely with a Switch Lite. So okay, I can't play the PS5.
The Steam
I
Deck
could
is
go play
also
my Switch.
Steam Deck is
Steam
also
Deck.
very popular right now.
Yeah, there's other options. I mean, yeah, you're playing your PS5 game, but a lot of people have multiple consoles now. They jump between them, and you jump to your phone for a while. It's a really niche situation people are going to use this for.
Why I think it's a failure is, I guess, determined by what is the reason for this coming out. Is this supposed to dig into market share for the mobile gaming market? Because if that's the purpose...
But it's not mobile games. It's not going to tap into that at all. Because it's not truly mobile. It's only on a localized network.
I know
so
that,
but
that's why I'm saying if that's the purpose, it's going to fail because it's not for that. I don't know.
Sony is one of the kings of producing, I don't want to say useless products, but super niche proprietary products that they do not support. PlayStation TV, the PlayStation Vita,
Earbuds.
the PSVR. Yeah, just like the list goes on. And it's not that any of these are bad products. They create some cool things for that niche market, but they can't support it because it's such a niche market. And they're not going to pour all this cost into something that it's not going to have a huge ROI on it. So, I mean, this could be a really cool device, but it's got to be super cheap.
I think if it's at 200 or above, it's going to be a huge flop for Sony. I think it's got to be 100, 150. I know that's cheap, but like for what it's doing.
I agree. So it's got to have, just think about the hardware that needs to be inside of it. So basically it's got a DualSense controller in it.
It's got to be touchscreen because there's no
$70 controller, and then you've got a screen on it. That's probably another $40-$50. It's got to have wireless internals in it. The hardware alone is probably close to $150.
It doesn't
at
have,
least from what they're selling.
It doesn't have little touchpad on the controller, so it has to be touchscreen.
That'd be a touchscreen.
It has to be.
Yeah.
I think I read online that based on specs, they're saying the battery life is looking at about 4 to 5 hours.
Oh, that's true too. I didn't even really think about battery life, but man, that's 4 to 5 hours. I mean, I guess if you're just trying to bide your time to not use the primary TV, that's probably enough.
Again, that might not be definitive. I thought I read somewhere someone saying that it's looking like about 5 hours.
I don't know. It's a very odd product for a really odd time when there is a lot of other options in the similar space. Like, it's not gonna be able to compete with mobile games. It's not gonna be able to compete with like the Switch or the Steam Deck. I don't really know who this is for, except if you just have one person who only wants to play PlayStation games, and they're going to go way out of their way to have every opportunity to play them. But at that point, if someone really loves PlayStation games that much, they'll probably just have another PS5 in their bedroom or something, or they can go stream it through a remote play. Like, I don't know. It's odd. It's odd.
No, I agree. I definitely glad you brought it up, because that was something I was just like, why not just use your phone? That's what everyone else is doing nowadays. Just find a way to build an app for the phone for the phone to be able to stream things.
Well, they have remote play on the phone already.
And that's another
thing. This isn't even a remote play.
It's not even remote play.
Well, it kind of is. It's like localized remote play. Like, you used to be able to, like the PS Vita, you could remote into your PS4 from anywhere. And that was pretty cool. I could have pure remote play if I was on a network somewhere. This isn't even that. Now, I'm sure people will probably hack it to a way where you can, log and put your PS5 on a static IP, understand how to, network to it externally, and you can probably then get pseudo-real remote play, but the experience is probably going to be garbage. But I don't know.
I think if someone mentioned it earlier, I heard, but if it was capable of, like, cloud streaming, where, like, you could play games you wanted on the go, maybe, but like, it's not a cloud. It's not cloud based, so it's like, I don't
That
know.
would have been their best bet. 'Cause they're trying to compete with Microsoft
Is
in
the
the cloud
technology
space a
not
little
there
bit.
for Sony? I find that hard to believe they couldn't be capable.
I mean, they already
My-
have the PlayStation Plus with the cloud capabilities. I mean, they
Yeah.
could have easily added that to that and then play along, anywhere you want.
Maybe it's
as long as you have
something.
a hotspot.
Maybe it's something down the line. They're just like, just get it out and we'll figure it out later.
I think the concern with, and I don't have a lot of first-hand experience with it from what I researched and from other people's experience, like Sony's cloud-based offerings, like their technology behind it, is usually pretty low tier compared to the competition. Like it's nowhere near Xbox or even Nvidia's offering or stuff like that. So they may not have wanted to enter that space fully if their technology or if they're not confident in their technology enough. I mean, not that they shouldn't have, because they needed something to really complete with, like, xCloud and whatnot, but that might have been their hesitation. They didn't want to invest that much extra, because then that handheld would have had to have been $250, maybe $300. Now you're really knocking on the door for these other more capable devices that can, like, a Steam Deck is what, $300 to $400, and it can play all those PC games locally. It can get xCloud installed on it. Like, it can do so much more. So I don't know. Really odd perspective that Sony's taking here. I don't really see it paying off, but we'll see.
I guess just to kind of round up my thought, I know we're way past the timer, but I did want to at least say, not to be the Xbox guy, but Xbox had a really funny tweet where they showed an image and it had like a whole bunch of games that were announced here. Apparently, all of like the biggest games announced here are going to be on Xbox as well. So it's like, I know a lot of people were kind of, and I agree with them. My kind of thought on how this event is if this was like a state of play, this would be a killer show. Like, I think this would have been like one of the best state of plays. But as far as this being the main showcase for Sony, I definitely think this was kind of a downer. Like, it wasn't like, again, it just depends on how you're looking at it. If it was a state of play, fantastic. If this is Sony's main event for the year, this is a bit lackluster.
There have been some rumors that they're going to have another one later in the fall.
I know,
and I don't know if
Summer
that would be a
Games
response.
is like in a few weeks.
Well, I don't even know about that. I think they probably have like a, late summer, early fall kind of showcase, kind of prep some other games that are coming up, maybe start prepping the start of next year. And that's rumored a little bit. And it's hard to say if they already had that planned, and maybe that's why this one is a little more lackluster, or maybe it's would be done in response to this. But I don't know. There's not a lot of big first-party Sony games that I am super excited about here. Like in the past, we've had a lot to look forward to, right? You had Ratchet and Clank, you had God of War, you had Horizon.
Metal Gear Solid's going to be on Xbox, so it's like that's one of the big ones for me.
Really, what you're looking at here, Spider-Man for sure.
For sure.
That Final
game,
Fantasy 16 is still PlayStation exclusive, to my knowledge.
One of the big ones was that game Concord, which I believe that's PlayStation only. That was just a cinematic trailer, though nobody knows what the heck that game is yet.
I'm talking about, yeah, and that's true. I'm thinking like proven Sony IP that we're definitely into.
I think they said Dragon's Dogma is going to be on Xbox. Pretty sure.
Yeah, I think we're just getting to that point where there isn't a whole lot of PlayStation focused exclusive IPs that people like really jonesing for, and I don't know when those are going to start popping up again, right? Like Sony's got a lot of stuff, but I mean, what's the next big Sony IP that you guys are excited to hear from? A Last of Us Part 3? I mean, would that do it for you? If they revitalize Uncharted from the grave, I mean, are they going to go that route? And that's really speculative, but I guess my point being is like they've kind of done all their big titles in the first year and a half of their PS5 life cycle, or 2 years, however long it's been now. So what's next?
I honestly don't know.
Bloodborne
I know
2,
Wolverine's one of the only ones, and you didn't even see that at this event.
Yep. So.
Yeah. Like you were saying just the other day, this is a great time for Xbox. This next showcase for Xbox, this is a good time for them to try and make up for some of the bad PR with, the Activision stuff and then Redfall. Did you see the rumor that's going around? I saw it on a few posts today. Apparently there are rumors that Fable is going to be shown at this event.
That'll be pretty big. I've been
That's a
looking forward
huge
to
title.
I don't want to ruin that for you guys, but I did read it on a couple posts where people are like Sony or Xbox is expected to showcase more Fable or something, and I was like, okay, you show me
They
more
need
Fable.
something.
Yeah.
Like I tell you, I know we've said this in the past, but I've usually been pretty okay with them not showing something too early. That's been kind of my general preferred way of hearing about a game, because if they get hyped too early, I don't know, that always rubs me a little wrong, and I'm waiting 2 years for a game to come out. But they are so far in the hole now without anything to look forward to. They need to drop something. So even if Fable's a year and a half out or something like that, I'd like to see something, just to maybe not feel like a completely wasted Xbox. I don't know. I need to have a little bit of motivation there.
I agree. So overall, you guys heard my thought. What did you think of this event? Did you guys think it was crazy? Do you think it was okay? Good?
That was fine. I'm really neutral on it. I think probably like you are.
It wasn't
I did
terrible.
like seeing Spider-Man.
It was just fine. Yeah.
Nothing crazy unexpected. Some solid stuff in there. A lot of stuff that I don't have a huge amount of interest in yet, but as the games come out and I see a little more about them, that might change. I am interested in Final Fantasy and whatnot, but I didn't need this showcase to know that those who are interested in Final Fantasy
they've already
in Final
ordered their
Fantasy
collector's editions, like some nerds.
This guy right over here. Where is he at? Nope. That's gotta get my finger pointed the right way for the camera. There we go. That guy.
But yeah, so that was that. So we're going to move on to our final topic for the day. We're going to move on to our, part 2 of our talks for Tears of the Kingdom. Take it away, guys. How's your adventure being the lanky boy?
Go for it, Metal. You think you've been quiet the most. I don't want you to fall asleep over there.
Hey, I'm falling asleep. I'm really tired. So I got my golden horse. I'm happy about that.
Yay.
Yeah, when I saw that, I was kind of just, doing stuff, walking around, doing whatever. Actually, I was finding the tears. I was looking for the tears.
Mm-hmm.
And
so did you have the quest for the golden horse, or you just found it?
No, I just found it.
Nice.
I saw it, and I was like, I want that. I looked at it, and I was like, I'm gonna get it. And I made a whole bunch of potions with a bunch of stamina crap on it because I used a bunch of my pots. And I was like, I'm gonna get this thing. And after 6-7 tries, I finally got it. And I was like, yeah. And I didn't know that was even a quest. Actually,
Yep.
The quest just came up, and it went away. And I'm like, oh, I don't feel special anymore. It was a quest that, it was a side quest. It's like, oh well, whatever. So I ended up getting 1, 2, 3. I think I got 5 or 6 tiers. So I'm still working through.
I think I only have 3 or 4.
Yeah, I ended up continuing on with the input thing for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Got to the Forgotten Temple, looking around.
So what's the first? I'm assuming that's the last tier you're gonna get. Is the very first one? The first memory. No, is that one? That's one of the tiers. All right, don't answer. No, don't answer.
It's not the last tier you get. Is not the first tier. It kind of wraps up.
But the first tier will explain something, I'm sure.
Yeah, you do. So it really depends on the order that you find them. How have you guys liked the tiers as far as how it's breaking down the story and
I like it.
Cinematics?
I like it.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me of the other stuff from Breath of the Wild, but with more context. But with more context, it feels a little bit more like you don't know what to expect from it, which is really nice. So for each one, it's something completely different. As opposed to looking for pictures, this one you're just like, oh cool, I found that you're looking for this little pool of water. That's it. That's all you're looking for. And you don't know what the hell to expect from it. All you know is that you get it, and something happens. And I really do like that. I like the mysticism behind the tiers.
I think the way it's very similar to how Breath of the Wild did the story, but maybe it's just I think the story is a lot better here.
Oh yeah.
Having Ganon as an antagonist helps a lot. Not that there aren't still cheesy moments, and it's got that Zelda-y kind of cheese to it in some ways, but I think the cinematics are better. Some of them are more action-y. They give you more just context of what's going on. Quality's better. No story, I just think it's more interesting.
He's a lot more menacing too. You actually could see he was gunning for power hardcore.
Mm-hmm.
They said something
when he gets it, he gets all freaking ballistic. It's pretty cool.
They said something he was one of the first, not first, but he was one of the rare like male Gerudo or something that was born.
Gerudos only have a male every
100,000
crazy generation,
years or whatever. They say that in Ocarina of Time if you've ever played it.
So here, and I'm kind of getting off on a tangent just a little bit.
Hitler Gerudo or whatever.
Oh, they do mention it though.
Hitler
So
Gerudo.
this is branching off, but it's a timeline question. So we know the very first game in the timeline is Skyward Sword. Now, before there was a Hyrule or anything, and up until Tears of the Kingdom, the last game was Breath of the Wild. Okay, so in the context of Tears of the Kingdom, they're basically saying that all the way back to the very first Hyrule. So this would have been like right after Skyward Sword, Ganon took over and then was imprisoned underneath the castle, and has been imprisoned all the way up until Breath of the Wild. That means all the other Zelda games took place while this Ganon was imprisoned under the castle.
That's really strange.
What I find that weird is, to my understanding of how like Skyward Sword worked, is that, you know, Ganon and Link and Zelda are all basically reincarnated in different kind of entities throughout the timeline. How does that work if you've had a Ganon underneath the castle this entire time, and then you've had other Ganons happening the whole time?
Other blights?
You're digging too deep. You're gonna have Miyamoto knock down your door.
I'm just saying. And here's the thing. I know, like, I don't know how much they've ever really thought about the Zelda timeline. I almost feel like when they put the timeline together like 8 years ago, they just haphazardly try to push things together to make it work. I don't know if they ever had like a big overarching plan, but this kind of feels like one of those moments where they like wanted to have a really cool story element. Ganon's been trapped under for a gajillion years, without really thinking about how it's going to affect the rest of the timeline. And maybe they'll write something in there to explain it, but yeah, that's just my nerd brain trying to understand what's going on there, and I find it kind of interesting. So.
Is it it's the plot is very much like, I don't want to say it's to me it's very reminiscent of like Back to the Future, of course, where like it basically Zelda goes back in time, but kind of she doesn't ruin everything, but she's unable to defeat Ganon with them.
It has to find a way to influence or impact the future, so it's not an issue in the future.
Okay, that's so it's all like it's like the classic time where it's like this happens because they go back and then you go forward. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, it's hard to tell like if it's like a linear like Back to the Future kind of thing, or if it's like branching timelines. But what it sounds like is there's one timeline and it's like cyclical. But I'm hesitant to say too much. I don't know which tiers you found. I will say, without going into a lot of spoilers, like the ending of it hit me kind of hard, like from an emotional aspect. And I don't really get emotional about Zelda games very often. This one you buy into, like it hits you a certain way at the very, very end when you figure out what actually happened and what's going on with Zelda. I mean, I don't know what you guys know, but I think the way they do the story is pretty choice towards the end. So I'll just leave it at that. Cool.
Awesome. I didn't get as many.
Have you guys found the Mastered Sword yet?
Nope.
No.
Okay.
I haven't even gone to the second or third or fourth dungeon yet.
Isn't that always in a woods? It's always in a forest or something. No.
I'll tell you this: it's not. Man, I want to talk about it, but I don't want to spoil it for you. So
there was one of the previous games I played where it was in one of the forest mazes. Or something.
Breath of the Wild is in the forest. It's been there before, but different games give you the Master Sword different ways. The forest can help kind of guide you towards the Master Sword if you want to go that route. But I'll tell you this: it's not in the forest.
So, can I broach something with you guys?
Broach away.
I'm kind of curious. When I'm finished with this game, I do think at some point I want to play Breath of the Wild so I can get a better view of both games. I'm starting to get tired of all of the building. Like, it's fun for a little bit, but man, there comes a point where it's like you're just constantly building. Like, everything is all about building things, and it's just like, again, it's fun, but I think it's part of the reason why we've talked about it so many times. I won't go too deep, but into like previous Zelda games with the more natural dungeons, again, because they're not so build oriented, they're able to like funnel you through a certain direction where you only use one certain ability or two certain abilities, and like, I don't know, like I just get tired every time I like approach something. It's just like, oh, you need to build something to get over it. It's like, I'm tired of this. I don't know. What about you? Are you guys tired? You get what I'm saying?
Have you been handling metal?
Well, I hate dying so dang much over stupid crap, in my opinion. I can find a Talus and I'm just like, yeah, cool, I got this. All of a sudden, one hit kills, and I'm like, man, this is stupid. Like, I have to build my weapons consistently to try to be able to even match anything.
Well, like,
So you're talking about fusing.
The two different, yeah, the fusing is cool, but it gets to a point where you're just like, all right, well, I don't want to fuse stuff. I just want to find things to fuse it and break it. You know, like.
It's a similar thing. Yeah.
So we're talking about the same thing. We're just different ends, like
same issue with two different mechanics.
Yeah, well, I get what you're saying, Chaz. Like, you know, in order to do things, you got to build stuff, and a lot of those shrines are like that. And
not just the shrines.
Yeah, everything. And I'm a little tired of it myself, actually. I like looking around to find things to see what works. Sometimes I just don't want to do that. I just want to kind of get it done and over with and kind of continue.
That's why I wanted to broach that with you, because in the previous game, Breath of the Wild, like, you were building, but it was mainly...
it was more restrictive.
More restrictive. Like, you were building, but, like, you were, like, more consistently exploring and moving around and doing things. Here, it's like, you go to a spot, and then you got to build a bunch of stuff, and then you're allowed to go to another spot. You need to build a bunch of stuff, and it's like, I don't know, like you were saying, restrictive is a great word. It's like,
I've kind of been like enjoying the depths a lot for that reason, because you don't have to build so much, because you're running around collecting pose and trying to get from one area to the next without hitting gloom. You know, like figuring out your ways.
I will say though, building ultimately ruins the depths. I'll just kind of jump into it. So eventually you learn how to build some certain
vehicles. The machines? The freaking Zonite machines?
Like, you can build a little hover bike with like a couple of fans and a control
I saw
stick.
that,
And then that's the only thing you ever need for the rest of the game. It breaks everything as far as like traversal. Like, you can fly around the depths. Gloom is no longer an issue. You can fly to every little route light to go and activate it, and then it ruins traversal of Hyrule too. And when I say ruins, like, it's nice to be able to move that quickly and freely, but I will never need to build any other vehicle ever again unless I just want to. So we talked about this too last time. I had kind of expressed the same opinion. I was already getting tired of building. Like, I know I had mentioned you have the one guy who's holding up the sign. You got to build something.
Oh, I'm so tired of that guy.
Yeah, that thing's so annoying.
Exactly. After about the 4th or 5th time, you're tired of it, and tell me if I'm wrong, you just end up doing the exact same basic
I've done it
structure.
10 to 15 times probably.
It just, building as the answer for everything gets super tedious, and if anything for me, makes it where it lacks my urge to have any kind of creative input after a while, because I would have already solved that puzzle. I already know the answer. Why am I going to wrap my brain for a more creative way to do it when I've got an answer there? And you may not have found it out yet, but the game gives you a way to auto build what you've created before. So then I just pull back up my schematic of something I've built that works, and I press a button, pop it in place, and then I'm done. Which is nice from a quality of life standpoint, that I can expedite the process. But point being is I didn't put any thought into that. I'm not recreating anything or solving a new puzzle. I'm just, for the sake of building something, pulling out my old building materials and solving the puzzle with the exact same way I've done it before. It trivializes a lot of the game. There's times that building, I think, is just tedious. It overcomplicates either solutions or makes it where the solutions to a puzzle are too easy, because you can break them through, building a hover bike. Like, I've skipped so many shrines because I built a hover bike. And that kind of ruins it for me. I miss having a restrictive sandbox, at least for parts of the game, where I have to do things a certain way. And a lot of people think, well, I'm just not being as creative then to solve a problem. But part of, I think, solving a problem to get satisfaction out of it is feeling like I found the solution, right? I was clever enough to figure out what the game developer wanted me to do to solve X, Y, Z. When I can break that, I don't feel satisfied. I'm just like, well, I kind of cheated the system. Yay for me. I don't know. And they do try to restrict you sometimes, but not often.
Can I say that's why I'll say I've done the Gerudo dungeon and I've done the Rito dungeon. I think that's I mentioned a gamer earlier. I like the Rito section much more than the Gerudo section, and I should say that's I think why I like the Rito section is because it's a lot less build oriented. Like I feel like when you're there, it's mainly just flying around, and once you get it into the dungeon, or he hasn't done it yet, but I don't want to ruin it for him. I just like it. It's more simple. It's a little more simple in terms of how you approach it. It's just moving around and doing things. I don't know.
What did you build in the Gerudo section that was less simple?
I feel like it required you doing a lot more with. I don't want to ruin it for him.
I don't think you're ruining it.
You're not gonna ruin it. I'm gonna get there eventually anyway. I mean, you had to do the little fan thing in the other thing.
You put me on the spot now. Now I can't think of what you were building exactly in the Gerudo part.
The Gerudo one, and I don't think it's a spoiler. There, you deal with these little mirrors.
Yeah, the mirrors type
that's
stuff.
That's kind of the main focus.
Oh, are you serious?
Mm-hmm. And like you have to attach those in places.
So it's a lot like the Ocarina of Time thing, where
it's
you
like
have
puzzles.
Oh my god, not that again. God.
Well, I kind of found that refreshing, but I can get back to that later.
I didn't find
rationale.
Yeah, I'm not thinking about it. I don't know.
I'm not trying to discount if you liked Rito more. I mean, that's perfectly valid.
I definitely still liked Rito a lot more. But...
Well, I'll tell you what. I want to come back to the dungeons because, man, I have a lot I can say about the dungeons. But as far as the building mechanics, I think long term this is going to be the defining or kind of dividing feature about this game for people.
It's going to be
people are really hyped about it right now. Long term, I'm not sure if Ultra Hand is going to pay off. Like, it's going to be great for those people who want to have a lot of longevity in the game, where they just want to play in the sandbox, build a bunch of crazy stuff, like pseudo Minecraft kind of things. This would be great for them. But for those who want to come back and replay this game just for the game, I will now have already known the best way to traverse it. I will have basically broken most of the mechanics at the very beginning. I'm going to have a hard time replaying this and recapturing any initial excitement or wonder.
Well, that's why
so much.
I'm thinking that the more replayable game may end up being Breath of the Wild. And I think it may end up being because, like you were saying, it's less restrictive in terms of the building. Yeah, it's maybe a little more plain in terms of the variety of locations because there's not a sky and a depths. It's just the main area with like the same locations from Tears of the Kingdom. But I don't know, like it felt more. Again, you're not hassled as much in terms of moving around. It's like the only thing you're hassled with in that one, from what I remember, was like learning how to cook, and then just learning where to go. Which I kind of like that a little more, where you're more like, I just don't know where to go, and I just want to figure out.
To be fair, knowledge after a subsequent playthrough is going to change that, because as soon as you play the game, you know where to go. So that is going to change the flow of the replayability. But the progression of movement in Breath of the Wild is very different. Like, there are glitches that can break that, but if you think about the standard flow, first you have to walk, then you have to get the glider, then you have to get the horse, and after you do that, that's about as fast as you get, and traversal is then kind of locked into a certain kind of flow. With Tears of the Kingdom, within the first, I'm going to say like hour, you could probably build one of those hover bikes, knowing that that's not a thing you can do, and you've now pretty much broken the game. Because you can go anywhere at any speed. I mean, granted, I guess you have like battery life to consider, but maybe you haven't broken the game, but you've definitely changed how you're going to interact with that game from now on. It's going to lose a lot of the mystery, adventure aspect of it, but you could argue that's going to happen, I guess, anyway. Once you've beaten the game, you know the game. I don't know. I don't disagree with you. I think replayability is going to vary very much on what you want out of the game. If you want a sandbox to play with, lots of replayability. If you're playing it again for just this narrative or certain like moments of it, I feel like you're going to be hindered by that, or at least it's not going to have the same impact that it did the first time.
Yeah, that's kind of the boat I'm in. Like, to be honest, most of the fun I have is just the whole, just walking around, exploring, fighting things, and it's like, again, if that's what you're into, then definitely being halted every, 5 minutes when you got to build something to get somewhere is kind of annoying.
I'm trying to think too, when in this game has Ultra Hand really made the game better? Like, when have I built something, whether it be prompted by the game or not, that been like, that's made this game much better for me?
I don't want to take these Koroks to their friends anymore. I don't want to build signs. Like, it's... Man.
Yeah, so, I don't know. I'm not saying that you can't have fun when you build, like, a giant mecha, Zonite device thing to take down a fortress. That's a fun moment, but I'm not going to do that every single time. I feel like now I'm not using that now. Like, I still just run into a fort and just take them out, handsy style, just with my little stick, just punch them in the face. So,
and like you were
saying, different.
Like you're saying, whenever it also kind of like, to an extent, doing those things almost takes a little bit of fun out, because like you were saying, it trivializes your experience a little bit, because it's like you're putting all this time into building something that's just gonna kind of ruin the game mechanic that they have planned for you, and it's I don't know.
I will say that it can lead to fun moments. I'm not saying I don't want to come so harsh to be like it's a bad mechanic. I think ultimately it's gonna not be a great mechanic for this game long term, but it does make for some fun moments. Like, I remember I was traveling, I think up to like the water temple or something, and I was getting up to this point. I saw like the last platform, there was this construct, like big bossy type construct out in the middle. So I built this plane to get over there, and I had this whole plan in my head. I'm going to fly this plane over, jump off, smack him in the head. So I tried this. I built this crazy plane, flew over. I jumped off the plane, missed him, and landed like 3 feet in front of him. Like, crap, now he's going to kill me. And then my plane flies from under me, scoops him up, and just takes him off into the sky. So there are fun moments like that happen because you can build crazy stuff. And I don't want to negate the fact that those fun, crazy moments happen. But I think from a moment to moment, just like what the game is trying to make you accomplish and do, I don't know if this is a mechanic that's going to serve it well ultimately.
And can I also, well, just kind of branching off of that, I think this game makes me more excited for what the next Zelda game is going to be, which I feel like I should ask you guys. Well, I guess it's hard to say because I don't know the ending. I mean, me and Gamer don't know the ending yet. But
I don't know the ending either. I am at Ganon. I haven't beat the game yet.
Oh gosh, maybe this is a hard question to ask since none of us know how it ends. But I was just saying, like, based on just my overall experience so far, I kind of hope that this ends this style, ends this Zelda, I don't know, kind of arc that they have. I hope that the next one tries something new or maybe reverts back.
When you say this style, are you talking about like
just
this story, or are you talking about this art style, or are you talking about this gameplay style? Because there's different things that could be ending here.
Maybe not the gameplay. The gameplay's fun enough, but maybe just this.
Well, like the open world.
Exploration.
You wanting that to go?
Kind of. Like I want it to stay.
The developers already said in a recent interview that Breath of the Wild, what it started as, is now the foundation for most Zelda games moving forward, beyond Tears of the Kingdom. So the next game will be like these two games. Well, at least from what they've said so far, unless I really misread or misquoted them. But I mean, it may not be the same Link and Zelda story, and it might be a different art style. But it sounds like it's going to be an open world, explorative, survival-y, whatever. So that's not changing, I don't think.
I don't know how I feel about that. Overall, I'm still enjoying it, but I don't want to dig too deep, but there's still something just missing for the overall experience for me. Like, it's still fun. It'll probably still be up there with Game of the Year. I mean, again, I gotta see how it ends. I mean, we'll see. I don't know. What about you guys?
I've been talking a lot. Get Gamer. If you got some energy left, and you go ahead.
I like the game as is. I mean, it's fun. I just need to continue, and I just gotta push forward to whatever it is I need to do. Really,
you look like you're
stop eating crap.
Out, man.
I gotta stop. I really need to stop eating crap. That's my problem. Like I get lost. I go one place, and then I go this way, and then I go that way. You should. Then I go to the depths. Then I go up. Then I jump down. Then I want to go there.
I think you should play it how you want to play it. If you want to go in a direction like me, go in a direction. Whatever, dude.
I'm used to direction though. When it comes to Zelda games, I'm used to direction. This open world stuff, like this Skyrim type style, is like annoying because I know
like it's hindering you that it's so distracting.
Yes, it's too distracting in my opinion. Like I like the game, I really do. It's just like, oh, shiny thing to my left. Oh,
It
that's
is
a dark
annoying. I
area.
do
It's
Like,
hard to accomplish something unless you really set your mind to accomplish something.
like I really want to go to a different place, but no, I have all these other things I want to do, and it's like, oh, cool, look at that horse. I'm gonna go capture it. Really? I should be doing something. You know, like it
tell
kind
ya.
of brings back. It kind of brings out the, you know, the what do you say? I don't know. It just brings out the bad person, that my disorganization.
I'll tell you, I don't know if this will happen to you, but it happened to me like after a certain point. I don't remember exactly when, but I got kind of over, or I don't want to say overwhelmed. I just got over doing more shrines, doing more Korok, doing more whatever, because it's not that they're even bad. I've enjoyed my time with them, but once again, I'm now 70, 80 hours, however long into it. I could do more shrines. I don't feel like I'm going to get much value out of them. I don't need them for power. Like, you get to a point where you're just overpowered in the game. And I don't feel like I'm going to get too many more exciting gameplay elements out of them. I'll tell you, the shrines, no matter what puzzle it is, they all feel about the same difficulty level to me. None of them are super interesting. They're like, oh, that was a cute little way to use that power. Or once again, I break it using whatever build mechanic I've learned. And I'll tell you, I don't know if it's that it is so much like Breath of the Wild and I'm kind of over it. I don't know. Like, I know I'd said way back for the game even come out, like, I was all for this being like Breath of the Wild because it's been, 6 years since I played Breath of the Wild. So even if it was that with just a little more added, that was fine. But I don't know if I still feel that way, because this game is very much Breath of the Wild. The shrines,
it is.
I mean, besides a little bit of aesthetic change, a slightly different powers, they're the same, right? Shrines are the same. Korok stuff, besides a couple of new ways to get Koroks, they're the same. There's a lot of the same DNA, and not that I'm opposed to that necessarily.
The cooking mechanics, the weapons, it's all...
It's just, there's so much of it already. There's a lot of it in Breath of the Wild. There's more of it here. And I'm not trying to argue that the developers don't deserve to have full price for this game, or that's not a true sequel. I believe it very much is. There's plenty of work and content and high quality content here. But I'm kind of over it. I am not going to 100% this game by any means. I have no want to. I'm trying to find the more interesting, unique content that I can. Like, the depths is still pretty fun. But even it gets
I want to go
old
defeat the
after
giant
some
monster
point.
down there. I saw him walking around.
So I will say this, I found in the depths. I haven't fought him yet. You remember the boss from the Rito, the big snaky dragon thing with the big circles?
Yeah.
There's a, like, nega version of him down in the depths. I saw him off to the depths.
Oh, you know what? I
like,
think I saw that thing too.
and I was like,
It was floating around. I was like, what the heck is going on?
So there's something cool happening there with, like, the old bosses might be returning down, like, under the depths. The depths are the coolest thing in this whole game to me. Even though there are some redundancy spots in there, I feel like there's a lot of secrets in there. I still haven't finished the whole, Master Koga, the Yiga clan stuff, so there's some cool stuff there.
I found their hideout. I couldn't get in.
Well, there's a
They
bunch
have,
of
they have
hideouts.
plenty of hideouts, man. If you found one, you're gonna find more. They're all over the place.
Yeah.
They're the reasons why you get the Zonite schematics.
Yeah.
That's the only way to get them.
So I guess my whole point being is, I don't know, you'll probably get to a point where you won't care about all the shiny things you're seeing. I mean, maybe you will, but I don't know exactly when it happened to me, if it was like the 50-hour mark, the 60-hour, whenever, but there's a lot more to do in the game. Like, you could probably spend 200 hours trying to do everything, just trying to explore it naturally. I have no interest in it. And I think there's just a point where you get kind of oversaturated with it, and you're just like, all right, let me just hit the main things and move on from there. So there was a point where I just kind of beelined to the dungeons, I knocked them out, and now I'm kind of sitting in front of Ganon deciding if there's anything else I want to do. I'm not sure how much there is. I mean, I know I'm coming across kind of negative here. I still have really enjoyed my time.
I'm
with
in the
game.
same boat. Like, it's
just so
like I said,
dense.
it's really good, but I don't know. Like I said before, for me, there's just something. There's something missing, and I don't know. I'm not quite sure what I can pinpoint on it. I think, as we were saying, I think just the building and stuff. There's a little bit of burnout, possibly there, which it kind of sucks because, again, my favorite part is walking around and discovering. So I don't know.
I think it's not about the core game being fun, but I was wanting something a little new out of this, like beyond what Breath of the Wild had. Like I said, I was okay with Breath of the Wild being the core of this, as long as there was something new there. I'm now trying to dig into what's new here and deciding if I think it was
Beneficial.
worth it to me. Like, the Ultra Hand, I'm not a big fan of. I mean, I think it's cool to play with. I think it's just, I wish it was more restrictive or didn't let you do what you can do with it. Some of the other powers are fine. Like Ascend,
I like Ascend is really cool.
The Rewind, whatever, Recall, that's cool. Like, because those are more focused kind of powers. So those are fine. I don't know if they're necessarily better or worse than the old powers you had in Breath of the Wild, but they're fine. But the one new mechanic they've really pushed, that and like Fuse, I'm really kind of met on. Everything else in the main Hyrule overworld, super similar to Breath of the Wild, so that's not jumping out at me.
I was just gonna
the depth. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna throw in. You were just talking about Fuse being annoying. Being down in a cave when there's so many areas of the cave that's blocked off by rocks, just continuously fusing swords with rocks so you can get through is like, I'm so tired of that.
The game gives you a way out of that at a certain point.
Bombs,
but, yes.
but if you don't have bombs, then
there's a better way, a renewable way to do it without causing an issue. But you wouldn't know that unless you played to a certain point in the game. I'm not gonna tell you what it is. But I believe you. Like, trust me, for most of this game, I was getting tired of finding a rusty claymore and shoving a rock on its end. So it gets tedious. I guess my point being is a lot of the new stuff isn't doing it for me. The depths as a concept is the only thing I was like, man, that's really cool. The dungeons, are we ready to start treading in the dungeon territory?
Oh boy.
Well, I've only done 2. Do you want to talk about specific ones? Or?
Well, which ones have you done? You said Rito.
Rito and Gerudo.
How many have you done, Metal?
I only did Rito.
Just Rito? Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't want to spoil too many of them. You remember when we talked about Rito last time, and I said, well, my big fear was that all the other dungeons are gonna do the same thing, right? You have to go and do these 4 things or 5 things, and every dungeon is exactly
it is like that? We are.
Yep.
Wow.
That's what I was afraid of.
Some do it better than others. Like, the Rito one isn't the worst one.
The mirror one I didn't like. I didn't like the whole mirrors.
I tell you, I ended up liking the mirror one a lot more after I did one of the other dungeons.
Really? Oh, okay.
I won't tell you exactly which one. Neither one of those, the Rito or Gerudo, in my opinion, are the worst of the dungeons. Neither of them are the best. The reason I think I kind of liked the Gerudo one a little bit, it wasn't so much getting there. I thought the route to the Gerudo one was a little more boring. It had a bit better progression to it. Like, the Rito one just felt like too just open. It's just like, go do that thing over there, then do that thing over there, this thing over here, with nothing kind of building upon it. The Gerudo one kind of builds upon it, like the light puzzles. You kind of have to solve one puzzle, which leads you to solve the next one, which helps. Like, I like that chain to feel like I'm kind of solving a grander puzzle. And the Gerudo Temple does that a little bit. Not much, but a little bit. So I like that. Now, if you don't like the light puzzle aspect of it just in general, then that's fair. But the other temples, they're the same. You will get there, and there will be 5 things you got to do, 4 or 5 things, and one of them does it, I think, very poorly. Another one does it pretty good. Like, I think the next 2, the Fire Temple, the Goron stuff, and then the Zora, one of those is the worst, and one of those is the best. And I'll let you figure out which one's which when you get there. There is actually. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say that's very disappointing to hear, because I mean, that's the main stuff you got, other than the tiers, which those are really easy. You just find them and you jump in.
There's more you can do. There is a 5th temple. I don't think it's really a spoiler to tell you there's a 5th temple. I won't tell you how you get there. That was a pretty cool experience. It's still kind of neutered by that.
I just mean if those 5 temples are your main thing, and then there's Ganon, it's like...
It's okay, so there is a little more in there. Like, that's not it. There are other things that kind of happen in between. And after you beat the temples and before you go to Ganon, there is something else that happens too. So it's not like that's it. But, okay, yeah, those are big elements. The dungeons have always...
And if Ganon ends up being ho-hum, like he was in the first game...
And I don't know that yet. I've been I'm at the battle pretty much. I can do it whenever I want. I just haven't...
I'll be afraid, man. Like, that battle again, and man, it was really lame in Breath of the Wild for me, and that's what killed it. I'm so sad that I even beat the game.
Yeah.
Like, I hope this one's not like that. I'm hopeful
that the battle's going to be better. I feel like if it would have been as bad as the last one, we would have heard about that from other people by now, and I haven't heard that
But
yet.
at least with Breath of the Wild, at least that whole experience leading up to there for me felt like a totally like new experience, because like, you know, open world Breath of the Wild or a Zelda game for me was like a brand new thing, and I was like,
I think. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just gonna say like that type of experience is totally, for me at least already, is kind of what is going to hinder my liking for this one, because if it's another ho-hum Ganon battle, then it's a lot of the same type of things experienced in Breath of the Wild leading into a similar outcome if that ends up being that way, which at least with Breath of the Wild that was like a fresh experience, at least for me.
I don't want to go down the route of this being a ho-hum Ganon battle yet. I don't think it's going to be. Like, there's been enough that's happened up till this point that I feel like the ending is...
I'm not saying it is. I haven't played it.
Good.
I'm just mean if it is, like, at least Breath of the Wild could lean back on, for me at least, it was like a kind of a different experience. I don't know.
I guess. I take a more negative stance there because I really hated the Divine Beast. Like, I think the dungeons in this game, even though they're still not the dungeons I wanted, almost all of them are better than the Divine Beasts. So, I mean, I will say that. Even the worst of these dungeons, I think is probably better.
I guess that's fair, because my favorite part of that game was not the Divine Beast. It was just the open world aspect. Again, that was my favorite part of that game.
And we've talked about before, though. I know for me, like, one of my defining favorite aspects of a Zelda game is the dungeons. Like, to me, that's kind of like the personality of the Zelda game, or like, I don't know, it's like the heart core. Something about it is like super defining for a Zelda game to me. So with the Divine Beast being so lackluster in the last game, there was just a big core thing just missing from that game. This game helps a lot by adding at least a better effort towards a more legitimized Zelda dungeon. They're not perfect. They're still missing progression elements that I miss. None of them, and I'm probably spoiling this a little bit, but I'm going to say it anyway, none have like mini bosses. None of them have really complex combat encounters. Like, none of them have almost any combat. Super, super light, and really there's like one or two enemies. You go bonk them on the head.
The Gerudo boss was a little worse, was a little tougher than the Rito one, but even the Gerudo one wasn't
the bosses are
that...
different. I'm not even talking about the bosses. I'm talking like mini bosses. Most Zelda temples or dungeons, you would have like some puzzly stuff,
the
some light combat.
Sand Scorpion or something.
Yeah, then you get to a mini boss where you're basically getting ready to unlock your item, right? And you have to beat him, get the item, and then you have progression to get to the main boss. I always liked those mini bosses. It was something to kind of, I don't know, push the progression along. There's just something missing in the progression for these dungeons for me. They look much better, they're themed much better, and some of the puzzly aspects are better, but not all of them. I mean, these still aren't quote-unquote true Zelda dungeons. And I'm pretty sure I played them all now, so I think I can say that with a fair amount of confidence.
I mean, both of them kind of have some cool stuff leading up to the actual dungeon aspect.
Some
like the Rito with the whole the platforming and all the sky stuff was really cool. I actually like the Gerudo. There's a place in the Gerudo town. There's like an event that happens there where it's like, that was kind of fun for a little bit. It was kind of quick, but you know, the whole idea of what's happening at the town, that was cool. I don't know.
Yeah, the build up and lead to these dungeons are better than Breath of the Wild, and probably better than some other Zelda games. Like how you actually get to the temple and get ready to do whatever's in that temple. Like the prep there and kind of the build up is nice. But the dungeons themselves are still lackluster. I mean, I will say they're better than Breath of the Wild, but they're nowhere near top level. Like, it's no Ancient Cistern from Skyward Sword. None of these are. And I guess I'm a little disappointed, or potentially disappointed here. So, this is... I'm trying to think if this is overly spoilery. I'm going to say it anyway because I don't care about you guys.
Nope.
But towards the end of the game, remember how in Breath of the Wild we complained that you could skip out of what was potentially the best dungeon, Hyrule Castle, just by going to the end? They kind of force you to go through Hyrule Castle a little bit at the end of this before you get to Ganon. Not much. And there's still parts of the castle that you wouldn't explore unless you want to go explore. But they kind of make you go through it. But it was also kind of lackluster, to be fair. So unless there's something about to happen where I see a whole new area that leads to a dungeon at the end, then I'm a little worried there's no big final dungeon. If I just go to this point and I just fight Ganon, I'm going to be a little disappointed. But maybe the Ganon battle itself will be better. I don't know.
No? Anything else?
I don't know what to say to that, to be honest. Like, I just didn't want this to be Breath of the Wild 2. That's kind of what it is.
That's kind of what it is.
It is.
Yeah.
It is 100%. I knew this was gonna happen.
I'm really curious how people, like critics or even fans, are gonna feel about this game 5-6 years from now. Like right now, everybody's super hyped, and you're watching everybody be like, "This is the best game ever made." Blah 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 blah. I can make a giant rocket monster using, Ultra Hand. It's the coolest thing ever. But I'm curious if over time, if people are going to feel that way. Like, I think streamers and whatnot are going to love it because there's a lot of content in these games, so they're going to enjoy it for that. And I think that's going to paint a different picture of what this game really is. I think for the people who play a Zelda game just to play a Zelda game, they're going to look back on this in 3, 4, 5 years and be like, I don't know. Nothing about it so far has really jumped out at me. The narrative I think is much better. If I was going to say anything, this narrative is far better, and I've enjoyed it for that.
And I will say something that I didn't think was possible that leading up to it, I thought was kind of a shoo-in. If my feelings about this game, for me at least, hold steady and stay the way they are, I actually think there's a chance that if there's another game that comes out that is really good, I could easily see myself not picking this for like game of the year or anything. Like if Final Fantasy 16, if I play that and that's like incredible, I just mean like I thought this game was going to be like you were saying, it wasn't just going to be Breath of the Wild 2, and I don't know why I thought that, considering
because they didn't tell you much about the game. So we all knew this was going to be Breath of the Wild at some level. I think people who tried to, convince themselves otherwise were, I don't know, misguided at the very least, or being naive about it. Like, looking at the trailers, you knew this was Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
But I think we all thought there was going to be something else. I think for me, it was holding out for real dungeons. And you kind of got it, but not really. I mean, the big thing I think that most people were surprised about that is a real innovation, quote-unquote, is the depths. I'll tell you, though, the more I explore the depths,
it's
the more
pretty
I'm also
plain.
it's great to find it first. And when you think about the scale of it, is the entire size of Hyrule, it seems pretty, endless.
It looks the same.
But when you
it
looks the same, so there's that. But when you figure out what's down there, you kind of realize, okay, it's just gonna be like more Yiga clan hideouts, more forges, more this. Like once you've done like a sampling of the content down there, you realize, well, there's just more of that here. It's all dark and you gotta go find it. And there are plenty of secrets. Like there are some cool things hidden down there, like collectibles and special kind of event thingies. I don't know if that's ultimately enough just to make this like the best, craziest thing that we could have hoped for inside of this game. It's neat, but I think people are overselling it a little bit right now. I don't know. Maybe I'm just getting a little jaded on it because I've spent 80 hours and I'm getting towards the end of my time with it.
Again, I didn't want to say I'm disliking the game. I just meant reiterating. I didn't think there would be wiggle room for another game to possibly, I don't know, be game of the year. And I actually think this is, if Spider-Man 2 or Final Fantasy 16 blow me out of the water, or Starfield. But I don't know. I'm enjoying it. I feel like I got to finish it to kind of see.
I kind of have a similar sentiment. Like when I pick like a game of the year, I always think about the moment or moments I've had. And, like I can think back and be like, that was this really cool thing. And I've had a few of those with Tears of the Kingdom, but a lot of the cool moments, I also had very similar ones in Breath of the Wild. So it's like they're not standing out eventually. Like me finding the depths for the first time, the way I found it, that was really cool. I will remember that moment. That's going to be something I'm going to be comparing future games to for sure. There are also a couple other cool moments that I won't spoil these for you that do happen. I'm like, that was really neat. But there are certainly other games I think that could come out that could have just as cool of a moment for me. Like I don't feel like I've been overly wowed with the gameplay or the exploration inside of this game. It's more of the same in a lot of ways.
This game's very much reminding me kind of how I felt about God of War Ragnarok, where like looking back, we chose it as our game of the year, or it was voted on as game of the year. But like looking back on that, it's just like, was that really the game of the year?
I think that's different though. I mean,
was that a wholly different experience than the previous God of War game?
But it's, I think I get what you're saying. I do. But the focus of that game and what that was trying to accomplish,
narratively, it was totally different.
It was narrative, like, and that's true for a lot of the Sony games. But for God of War in particular, it wasn't about it being different mechanics, different environments. Which, to be fair, it had a lot of different environments and some different mechanics. It was about the narrative, and I think it improved on that in a lot of ways. Like, I could look back at Ragnarok and say that improved on just about everything the original God of War did, while adding a new, interesting story to it. And once again, you still argue Game of the Year, candidacy out of that, but I think it's a very different take than how Tears of the Kingdom is a sequel to Breath of the Wild. Because I think a lot of stuff that Tears of the Kingdom does is just a direct recreation of Breath of the Wild. And one of the big core things about Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom is the exploration and Hyrule. And the fact that that mechanic is pretty much 100% the same in so many ways, that I think makes it fall a little flat for me. I don't know. So I get what you're saying, though.
I just wanted to bring up the idea because I remember, it got voted on as Game of the Year, but it was like, I don't know how strongly I still feel about that one. I mean, which this one very much could, this is going to be a very popular game. Who knows, at the end of the year, most people are probably going to have played this over. Like, this is much more widely played, I would think, than like Final Fantasy 16. Like, don't get me wrong, Final Fantasy 16 is going to have a lot of people that play it, but Zelda is just, that's tip of the tongue.
Appeals to a larger demographic. I mean, you're going to have kids, adults, everybody playing it. Final Fantasy, I think it's going to be, I don't want to say niche, because it's not niche, but
no.
It's not, I think, as broad as Zelda is, by any means.
Well, it has its audience.
Final Fantasy 16 is going to kill it too. Like, that's going to be another huge one. I'm more excited for that one now because I want to compare it to like something like this. We'll see. I got to get through this game first.
So, I don't know, any last comments about anything in the game, or are there any other cool moments that have happened in the game you want to mention?
Other than like the first,
we're just coming so negative at him. Trying to get some positive.
Other than the first time going down in the depths, and the depths, like you were saying, that's probably the most notable. Thing. I mean, the thing is that every other type of experience you have from this game is something similar that happens in the previous one. It's like, oh, the first time you jump off the plateau and land on the ground. It's like you have that same experience in this one. You still are elevated and you get to leap off when you get introduced to the world. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. What about you, gamer?
I just like finding treasure chests and that have fun stuff in it. Like, I'm running around with Wind Waker garbs. Yep. It's so cool. I was like, yay, I look like Toon now. Yay.
I definitely think the most memorable stuff for me so far has been the dungeons. And I think that's because, as you were saying, they're noticeable positive over the previous games. What was it? The Legendary Beast or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm liking finding the tears, man. Like, I think finding... Like, I'm scrounging around to find these stupid freaking geoglyphs, and there's only two ways to find them. You either find them from the sky, or they're glowing from a distance on top of a mountain, and it's like, well, that's how I was able to find like at least a few of them. And I
beeline myself to them all. I pretty much just found every tower and just jumped around.
That's kind of what I'm doing. Like, I'm just
the game gives you a map to them, right?
Yeah, I know. I took a picture of them and I'm like, all right, cool. Let me figure out where this is at. And then they just give you a general location. They don't tell you exactly where it is. They just tell you where it might be. It's like, oh, okay, that's kind of neat. But what is interesting though is as I'm finding these things. The story, I just like the story. I like the story. I think the story just plays out really well in it. I think in general. I think that's the highlight for me is the storylines. Like, I really like finding those stupid tears.
Yep. The only thing I can really think of that I really enjoyed, finding the 5th dungeon. There's a few ways you can get there, and the game does point in the direction, but I stumbled upon it way before the game was supposed to tell me to do it, so that was interesting, because every other dungeon, you have to go through one of the races, like, kind of stories to get there, and they unlock it, and you can't get to the dungeons early. right? You have to go through their little storylines. Not this fifth one. You can just fall into it whenever. Like, I didn't realize I was in a dungeon until I was almost done with the dungeon. So I like those moments in this game when you don't realize what's happening and just something cool kind of manifests. So the fifth dungeon, if you come across it the right way, can be like that. I'm actually curious, depending on how you guys come across it, if you're going to have a similar experience to me or not. But yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Finding and doing the fifth dungeon was kind of cool.
I ran into something very interesting, like on one of the maps, and I was like, oh, what's that? I opened it up, and then I'm like, what is that thing in the top right corner? I'm like, ooh, another labyrinth.
So I was just about to say, have you guys done any of the labyrinths or the board cubes up in the air?
No.
I haven't done it yet. I want to do it. I saw it. I've made a mental note of it, and I'm like, I'll be back.
Yeah.
Did you jump in the whirlpool?
Yeah. All right, I won't mention anything with the labyrinths. I'll leave that for our later conversation. Cause
yeah.
I also
I have a feeling. Yeah, I have a feeling we're gonna be talking more about this in other episodes.
Yeah, we need a part 3. I don't know if it will want to be next time or not. Like, I'd say next time we really talk about this, I'd like to know what your guys' opinions are on all 4 of the dungeons. So I don't know how long it'll take you guys to get to that point, but
maybe we'll just hold off until we're done with the game, or done with.
We could do that.
A sizable. I just thought about it. Or good.
Oh, go ahead. I was gonna say, just we got Diablo 4 coming, so that's gonna probably be the next one.
I just thought about it, but like, what were the real negatives coming away from Breath of the Wild? I mean, so for you guys, it was just the dungeons, and for me, it was
the shrines were just repetitive and obnoxious, just like they are right now.
For me,
repetitive and obnoxious.
For me, it was just the weapon degradation, which. I guess just a random thought. I feel like I have more negatives coming away from this game simply because of the weapon degradation is still there. I don't like putting up signs. I don't want to keep taking this Korok to meet its friend. Like, there's little things, I guess.
I don't even do those. I don't even bother with the Korok and his friends. I just throw them away. It's like, help me.
I have like
I just attached a rocket and just launch them off.
I have like
pretty much.
I have like a weird ADHD where like I see something, I have to go do it, and I can't move on until it's done. So it's like
this game has made a lot of things more tedious.
Mm-hmm.
Like the weapon degradation. Okay, that was annoying. Now they haven't gotten rid of weapon degradation. Like, oh, we fixed it by you being able to fuse things to it. Except fusion is a process, man. Like, especially if you want to fuse very specific items and that are in your inventory, you got to go to your inventory, which
that almost doubles your weapon degradation,
and then it's still gonna break. So you haven't fixed it, and then other mechanics like so finding the Korok. So you figured out I gotta get this Korok over there. You've solved the puzzle. You know what you have to do with it. But now you've got to build something to get that guy over here. Once again, after a certain point, you'll always solve it the same way. Like, I don't know. I don't want to retread this. We've been talking about it now for way too long.
Yeah,
but
I'm good.
I agree. It has made some things worse. It's made a few things better, but I'm not sure if it's made it better enough.
Mm-hmm. All right, guys. Well, I think that's what we're going to call it there. As I thought, we talked about Zelda way longer than I always expect we do. But coming from these guys, I feel like the next time we're going to talk about it, we're going to try and wait until we are about done, right? Is that the kind of feeling?
I would say at least get done with the 4 main dungeons, because I want to rip into those whenever we get a chance. If you beat all the way through again, I would say don't hold off. Go as far as you can.
I'm going to try and be done with this game by next time we talk. I would like to be.
I mean, don't rush it. If you're still enjoying, putzing around, go ahead. But as I said, there's a point where I think you get tired of putzing around. It's like, all right, let me knock these things out.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you, there is no benefit, I think, to waiting on doing the dungeons. Like, at a certain point, you're going to get overpowered for them, and then they're going to be less fun. So I would say don't wait too long. Like, if you feel like you've been going a while without doing a dungeon, stop, go do one, then putz around and come back.
Right, so, I don't know, guys. So what do we have, what do you guys have planned before the next episode? I know we got, Diablo's on the horizon. Spider-Verse, isn't that coming up? What else is coming up? Flash is coming up soon.
Oh, is it? When's Flash coming out?
Is that this month or July?
I don't know. I knew Spider-Verse is next month. That's the only thing I can remember.
I think Flash is next month too. I think they're both in the same month.
Oh, interesting.
And then Final Fantasy 16.
Oh man.
See, there's too many games, man. Like, how do you have time to finish Zelda, get into Diablo, get into Final Fantasy? Like, there's no way to finish all these things.
No.
So, too packed. I say I'm gonna probably not dig into Final Fantasy. I want to. I think I'm gonna leave that to probably a later year.
And then also, it's game season next month too, or tomorrow, because we start having all the events. Summer Showcase, Xbox has their event.
Is that already here?
Oh, I forgot about those.
Yeah, so June we're starting to get into video game announcement season. I mean, PlayStation just had theirs, so.
Yeah, I guess so.
Man, we're gonna get burnt out by the end of the year.
No,
It's such hard work.
We're gonna get Fable, Avowed, Elder Scrolls. We're gonna get everything.
Well, lots of good stuff to look forward to then.
Elder Scrolls 7, what?
Yep. They're gonna announce the next one before the other one comes out.
Yeah, really.
All right, everybody. Well, I think that's all we got to say. Do you guys have anything to say to the lovelies before you head on out?
We've said enough.
To the basement.
I think the fat one said enough too.
The fat one. Whoever you are, I'll leave your comment there just because you made me laugh. Laugh on the inside.
Awesome.
All right, everybody. Well, that's all we got to say. Once again, on screen, there's audio locations for you, and also in the socials. We'd love to hear back. Any questions, suggestions, any other rude jests you want to throw our way, we will take them.
Still chat with us, even if you're just making fun of us.
Yeah.
I need the views. I need the comments. All right. Thank you so much for watching, guys. We love you, and we will see you again on the next one. Bye, everybody. Oh, dang it. I did it.